order to customize ads for the local audience. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
My son Aiden has asthma. Secondhand smoke has triggered his asthma so badly.
I just quit asking him.
He ended up in the emergency
I'm like, I know you have money
and
sitting in a bank account.
in
Like, you can't just PayPal it to me?
Now he's on a whole bunch of medications.
Well, that's what he's.
My tip to you is, don't be shy about telling people not to smoke around your kids.
I don't. That's why. Well,
half of U.S. kids are exposed to secondhand smoke. If you or someone
he's
you
like,
know wants help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
President Trump is predicting a short-term fix on health care, followed by a long-term fix. Speaking at the White House, Trump said the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is dead and should not even be mentioned anymore.
I give it.
The president recently ended billions of dollars in federal subsidies to insurance companies. Trump said the gravy train to big insurance companies is over. However, critics of the president's actions says those subsidies help keep health insurance affordable. Removing them will raise premiums on 70% of the people in states that voted for Trump
5-1, 5-1,
presidential
4-2.
election.
I'm like,
the president is sounding bullish on the economy.
When I began, we were in the ones.
There's just no point.
Now, the last quarter, we were at 3.2%.
Yeah, usually I'm only
we're going up higher. So we're also talking about many millions of jobs.
Trump says there's optimism across the U.S. He repeated a call for massive tax cuts and serious tax reform. The president also cited a need for spending cuts. He said welfare reform needs to be considered. Fed Chair Janet Yellen says the economy is in good shape, citing good employment numbers and more investment.
You want an Xbox and you want an iPad. You can get them all.
That's a collection of private sector bankers and international policy experts that benchmark interest rates will most likely rise by the end of the year. How much is still unknown, but investors say they expect a 0.25% increase. The Fed also announced it would reduce their holdings of treasuries and mortgage bonds because they think the economy is strong enough on its own. The Nordstrom family is putting its plans to take the company private on hold. The retailer said it would continue to review its options after the holiday period. Shares of Nordstrom
1 minute.
After their announcement, Nordstrom has been unable to find suitable
probably have to
debt financing as investors sour on the slumping retail industry. And Ruby Tuesday is changing hands. The casual dining restaurant
it would just be everything that you and me do.
Right. It'd be so much easier.
So after time, I'm searching
Business
for your
News,
name.
Ted Asregadoo, NBC News Radio.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. Louisiana is more than just a place to visit. It's our way of life, and that means being outdoors. Join the nearly 2 million people who camped, biked, paddled, and hiked our state parks last year, as we invite you to do the same. All
right, 10 seconds.
From the world-class fishing at Toledo Bend to paddling at Fountainwood to exploring the ancient mounds at Poverty Point World Heritage Site. So fill up your car and staycation right here in our home, Louisiana.
Dunc and Holder on a Tuesday, October 17th. Jeff, Dunc, and Larry Holder here at our NOLA.com Times-Picayune studios. And Jeff, I can tell you that among humanity in New Orleans, they're still a little giddy up in their step. The weather's great. The Saints are playing well. LSU is on the up and up. And the Pelicans tip off tomorrow night. So lots of going on. I know the Pelicans threw some big bonanza party where Lafayette Square. I think that's where they are. It's basically their Wednesday on a square at a Monday to get everyone pumped up. And look, lots to talk about, lots going on. I'll just lay out the guest list here real quick. Top of the 11 o'clock hour, we'll talk LSU, and I'm going to ask him about the Pelicans since Andrew Lopez is, of course, a huge NBA guy, Pelicans guy. We'll talk with Lopes about that. Top of the 11 o'clock hour, of course, our colleague at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Then 11:30, we'll talk Saints with Sean Pazan, Fox 8, WVUE TV's own. And we'll talk with him about the Saints, and I'll ask him about the Pelicans because, look, NBA season starts tonight. And, of course, you've got the big boys in primo time playing tonight. You've got Boston taking on Cleveland. I'm sure that's a total coincidence. And the Rockets taking on Golden State, another just total coincidence that they'd open the season with those two matchups, and LeBron versus Kyrie Irving and Isaiah Thomas and all of that. And Jeff, honestly, NBA, I feel like it was such a dizzying offseason, and I've kind of dug my face into what's going on with the Pelicans. This is going to be, I know the powers that be are still the powers that be, but lots of intrigue still with so many moving parts going on in the NBA. And look, the Pelicans tip off tomorrow night at Memphis. And as you know, and as we've said tons of times already in this show, they got to start out strong. And at Memphis, like, that's a place where you got to go in and get a win to kind of get on the right foot here.
Yeah, the season's starting without a lot of fanfare. I don't know what the turnout was like at Lafayette Square yesterday, but you don't hear a lot of excitement right now or talk, and that's typical to some degree in New Orleans of the NBA because we're such a football-dominated marketplace. But in past years, I think you would have heard a little more buzz when it was the Hornets, put it that way. But
buzz,
nice pun, right? No, I just think it's going to be interesting. I think this team's got a lot of potential. I'm really excited to see how they work together and how they evolve, but I'm also curious to see if it's going to work and if this experiment, kind of counterintuitive experiment with two bigs in a league that's going more and more towards positionless basketball. And you could make the argument that Cousins and Davis are positionless players. I mean, they're not traditional bigs, but they're kind of going against the grain here, and they're gambling, rolling the dice that it's going to work. We'll see.
Well, DeMarcus Cousins was probably your more prototypical big when he came into the league as far as a center spot, and yet he's dropped weight by design to keep up with the evolving NBA. And so, look, I think you're right. It's an experiment. They know they've got 1 year to get this thing done. And actually, they've probably got less than that. They've probably got a half a year to get this thing done to keep them in playoff contention without blowing it up, because if it tanks, DeMarcus Cousins should easily be on the block, because you don't want to potentially lose him and get nothing if it's not working. And so some intrigue there. But yeah, so today's show is going to be pretty wide open. If you want to get involved, 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. And we're going to kind of talk about each league in its global scale, because the NFL, all kinds of crazy things are going on. Look, the league owners' meetings are going on right now, and the big topic is the anthem. And look, we'll be able to touch on what Sean Payton had to say about the anthem the protest before the anthem,
right?
And what happened there as the boos rained down while it was going on during the moment of silence for a fallen NOPD officer, Marcus McNeil. Sean Payton spoke about that. Our own Josh Katzenstein talked himself to Drew Brees about it, and it kind of went along the same path of what we said on the show yesterday. So, look, I think we move on from that, and that topic should kind of fizzle out, at least that incident. But at the owners' meetings right now, players, owners, so it's a selection of players, a selection of owners, and the league office are meeting probably right now to figure out what to do going forward. And I read Alex Marvez from Sporting News, covers the NFL for years and years and years. He talked with someone, and they don't anticipate a change in the policy right now, regardless of that they're speaking.
One of the criticisms I've heard of the NFL, is that they have not given each club any kind of direction. And so each club is kind of acting on their own. We saw the Saints make their decision as a team, and yet the NBA, very proactive league with Adam Silver as commissioner, they immediately were proactive and issued kind of a league-wide memo addressing the national anthem as a league. And I think that's smart. And the NFL is such a bigger Goliath as far as interest level, and it's much more high profile than the NBA, at least here in America. They kind of dropped the ball on that, and now everybody's scrambling to come up with some kind of solution to this. And I don't know if they can find one that's going to make everybody happy.
It doesn't sound like they will. So I'm curious to see what comes out of that. But we're not going to talk too much about that. We want to talk about the results, what's going on in the league. So many interesting storylines as far as who's hot, who's not. Look, the Saints are actually being talked about nationally. Good Morning Football bringing up if the Saints are for real in the NFC South, and Peter Schrager from Fox Sports and NFL Network, he was a sideline reporter, and he kind of spearheaded the conversation saying that the Saints are for real, and so, or could be for real because of the way they're playing and their schedule. So look, we'll go through the national landscape, how the Saints fit in, and look, who's the best team in the NFL? I think we don't know, and I think that's an interesting part of the conversation. We'll also talk about college football. Before the show, we're so heavy into LSU and what's going on in there. I tell Jeff, you look at 2 of the top 4 teams, I'd have never guessed it. Penn State is 2, TCU is 4, so we'll talk just kind of the dynamic of college football and our own little mini preview of the NBA as far as who's where, what's happening, and so it's a busy time because the NBA is starting earlier than normal, and it's to prevent too many back-to-backs, 4 games in 5 nights, things like that. And I do think part of that will sully the excitement, especially here, but I think across the country about the NBA, even though there's so many moves and so many intriguing storylines going into the season.
Well, you had so many players, superstar players, switching teams this offseason. I don't think we've ever seen an offseason like we just experienced with big-name players, most of them moving from the East to the West. Of course, we had the Kyrie Irving, Isaiah Thomas trade. That was a bombshell. But players like Carmelo Anthony and Paul George, Chris Paul, those guys don't change teams very often, and they change the dynamic in the Western Conference. And even though I think we all agree that the Pelicans are going to be improved this year, are they improved enough to make a dent in the Western Conference? Does it become even stronger? Everybody else, it seems like, in the Western Conference improved as well. And so I think the general feeling is there's 4 dominant teams in the West, the Warriors, the Thunder, the Rockets, and I'm leaving one out. Who am I thinking of? Oh, the Spurs. Those 4 teams are the dominant teams. And then there's a scramble of about 6 or 7 teams fighting for those final 4 spots in the playoffs. And a lot of people have already penciled in the Minnesota Timberwolves as a kind of a lock to get in because they got Jimmy Butler. They're a young ascending team. Then you've got 6 teams fighting for 3 spots, and the Pelicans are among those 6. Can they be one of the teams to get in there? But that's still not exactly, I don't know. If you're a Pelicans fan, is that enough? You just get in the bottom of the Western Conference seeding, and then you probably have to go play the Warriors or the Rockets, somebody on the road, and you're going to probably get eliminated. That's the expectation, I think, right now.
The bar has dropped so low, I think that's part of the problem, and I'm sure those on Airline Drive are wondering, well, the expectations are never really that for the Saints. Why should we settle for that for the Pelicans? And so it's an extremely critical year. Like, we've talked about it ad nauseum, how critical of a year it is. And look, all you got to do is look at some of the odds, and I literally just got an email from an odds maker, bookmaker.edu. So of course it's coming from overseas, but we get odds from them all the time, and so we'll go through some of that. Some of the categories that are there, of course, are who's going to win the NBA championship, who is going to win Rookie of the Year, who's going to win MVP, and sorry, Alvin Gentry, which coach will be fired first?
Is he on the list?
Oh, he's on the list.
I assumed he would be.
He's on the list. I'll just leave it at that.
Leave it at that tease.
Yes, and
great radio tease.
Yes, we're such pros at that. Absolutely. So, and I actually got some. It's like Odds Tuesday, and back-to-back emails. I got odds from Bovada about some of the shifting with the Packers' expectations and what are the over-unders on some numbers for Brett Hundley going into the Saints game. So we'll do like an odds and ends segment here on the show today.
Maybe we can, your masterful work on Twitter, maybe we can do a Twitter poll during the program.
Poll! I love polls.
Do you know how to do a poll? I don't know how to do a poll.
Jeff,
a Twitter
it's
poll.
Not hard
All right, well, we need a poll of what are expectations this year on the Pelicans or something along those lines, and we'll see what our listeners and our followers have to say, because I'm curious.
Maybe I'll make it happen.
Playoffs or not? Or, are the playoffs good enough? Will that satisfy fans? I think it might right now.
I think it has to. I think it has to. But would it satisfy Boogie Cousins? Would it satisfy Rajon Rondo to come back? Would it satisfy, there are other elements here. Would just getting to the 8th spot and bowing out, would that satisfy Tom Benson? Because those guys are on the line. I
think initially it will, then once they get eliminated, it won't. It'll be one of those.
Just like Monty Williams.
It'll be like going to a restaurant with you have high expectations, and then once you get there and the meal's not that good, you got a huge check.
It's literally the same thing as Monty Williams. Oh, they got to the playoffs! Yeah! Oh, they stunk in the playoffs.
We got to do more than this,
right?
Yeah, and we got to clean house. I think that is exactly right, because I think people will realize once they get there how far they've got to go to try. And when you have a guy like Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins to some extent, but I really believe Anthony Davis is the man, you should be thinking championship. That's a championship elite franchise player, and you can win a title with him, but you got to put everybody around him. And the Pelicans have not done that at all so far.
No, they have not, and so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll try to devise a poll. But Jeff, maybe I should make you struggle through trying to figure out how to do a Twitter poll. Can we just video that?
We do not want to.
We are on YouTube Live, so we are monitoring.
Well, it can't be that hard.
Of course, it can't be that hard. But hey. You were crusty old man screaming about traffic yesterday.
Crusty, what is that crusty? You think that young people are patiently waiting? Most of the people actually that were with me were young.
What the hell did
wanting
I just
to go by?
Why did I do this?
It's a passing lane. If you're not passing somebody in the left lane, get in the right lane.
Jesus,
very simple.
Why did I just do that to myself?
It's a passing lane.
Humanity and Dave, I'm sorry. I did it again. I'll never do it again. Don't ever speak about traffic with Jeff. The guy who cuts across 5 lanes and almost gets me mowed down in Chicago or whatever city we were in.
You still remember that?
Yes, because I had to grab the bleep handles to save my life in the car.
We had to get to the airport. Somebody had to get us there. I did. I took advantage of the situation to get us there.
Jeff Duncan. He's for left lane getter-outers and coffee for all. That's his platform.
If I run for public office, I will fill the potholes in New Orleans, and I will erect signs along every major thoroughfare saying that the left lane is a passing lane. If you're not passing somebody, get in the right lane. Thank you, America.
Dave, you're encouraging him. Stop it. We're going to break here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Oh, we're Duncan holders. Seriously, that's who we are.
Action-packed.
No,
you see 40's tweet about Tulane? That was good, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
Hard hit.
Just feeding the beast.
Thank you.
Exactly. Is Tulane football. Tulane hosts USF on Saturday, October 21st. Catch the action right here on your home.
Tulsa scores 45 and rips Houston.
Sports 1280.
Tulsa crushed Houston.
I know. I saw it's crazy.
Could be easier with more qualified candidates and faster results. What if hiring could be smarter?
No, they got the list of who's at this meeting.
With one click, post your job to over 100 top job boards. Then their smart technology notifies the most qualified candidates
former
to apply.
locals.
No wonder 80% of employers
Kenny
who post
Stills,
on
Malcolm
ZipRecruiter get a
Jenkins,
quality
Eric
candidate
Reed.
through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Try ZipRecruiter
of course,
at ZipRecruiter.com.
Saints are not represented in the ownership.
That's ZipRecruiter.com/expand.
I'll just rattle
Did you
off
see
the
the
list.
story the other day about?
Than you might think.
There's
Health
a thing out
experts say
about,
as many as 18%
the 30
of
NBA
American
teams,
adults
they surveyed,
and 1 out of 5 children suffer from
29 now said they're
diagnosable
no
mental
longer staying at
illness
Trump
during
hotels.
any given
One
year.
team didn't respond to the thing. It was the Pelicans.
Depression and bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, substance
hilarious.
abuse, and addiction.
Dr. Husseini Manji is with the pharmaceutical giant Janssen. He says, as with physical issues like broken bones, treatment usually involves a combination
All right, 1 minute.
and rehab. The average household contains millions of microbes, including fungi, mold, and diseases.
Twitter? Never done one.
Researchers say toothbrush holders, pet bowls, and toys, toilet
so
seats, stove knobs, coffee
create a Twitter poll.
reservoirs,
You just go to Twitter and figure it out.
Contain the highest
God
number.
did. It's
How they
support.
affect you apparently has a.
You're going to fill in the potholes, but you can't figure out a Twitter.
Dude, all you gotta do is right here, and it's the poll things right here, dude.
NBC News Radio.
What's happening? Huh? And that's a poll.
No, I didn't know what that
was. And right now, it's save up
Ask a question.
30 seconds.
with special buys on innovative appliances that do more. Like a Maytag top freezer refrigerator with extra deep door bins to free up shelf space. It's just $498.
I gotta stop.
You save $150. Savings are in season with up to
I'm not a
30%
technological
off
genius,
appliances at
but
the Home Depot. More saving,
I'm not done
more
yet.
doing. While
see.
supplies
I'm not
last,
done
US
yet.
only. See store for details.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Jeff is feverishly creating a poll. Luckily, he found the help page on Twitter to figure out how to make a Twitter poll, except all you got to do is go click on, like, making a post, and there is a poll. There are 4 icons, and one is just add a poll. So you could have just asked me.
I figured it out, didn't I? I did figure it out.
You were feverishly doing that. But no, interesting tidbit. The NFL owners' meetings and the meetings that are going on with some owners, some players, and the NFL about the national anthem and how to protest during the national anthem, when, whatever they're trying to figure out. Just going to rattle off who's there, just because I think it's interesting. Look, no Saints players are there. Saints ownership, no one is represented in this meeting either. But some interesting names. I'll just rattle off the players. Anquan Bolden, they're deeming him a legend because he's on no team, but they wanted to hear his voice. Darius Butler from the Colts, Russell Okung from the Chargers, Kenny Stills, Julius Thomas, and Michael Thomas from the Dolphins, Mark Herzlich from the Giants, Kevin Beacham and Demario Davis from the Jets, Malcolm Jenkins and Chris Long from the Eagles, Eric Reed from the 49ers, Josh Norman from Washington. From the NFLPA, predictably, you got DeMar Smith, Eric Winston, and Don Davis. From the NFL, you have Roger Goodell and Troy Vincent. And the owners that are being involved in this meeting are Cardinals owner Michael Bidwell. We got Arthur Blank from the Falcons, Terry Pagula from the Bills, Bob McNair from the Texans, Shad Khan from the Jags, Stephen Ross from Miami, Bob Kraft, John Mara, Art Rooney, Jeffrey Lurie, and Jed York. So probably your big time. There's no Jerry Jones, which I find that interesting in this meeting.
Yeah, they excluded him, maybe on purpose.
I'm not sure, but that's interesting that he's not in there because he was one who's been on the hot button topic of that. So just figured I'd throw the names out there. Of course, some local ties, Malcolm Jenkins, who, if you haven't been paying attention, that it would have he's been part of this. Eric Reed, too, Kenny Stills. So, look, it's something that you figured some local ties names are in there. And so I'm curious to see what happens. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I'm just curious to see what happens.
And so they're saying that they don't expect to have some kind of decision
that
made
nothing
at these meetings?
Would necessarily change. Like, they're not. It doesn't sound like there's going to be some major policy change in these meetings, but they're getting dialogue, and maybe they come out and say, like, as in the rule book, it sounds like. Now maybe they come to an agreement. Let's do something here, and it's hurting the game, it's hurting the players, it's hurting the teams, it's hurting everything. Maybe they feel like, so maybe that happens, but we'll see.
Speaking of the national anthem protest, did you notice yesterday when Mike McCarthy was asked about whether he would consider bringing in Colin Kaepernick? I mean, he was fired up, boy. I mean, he was adamant that the quarterback room is fine with it's Joe Callahan, I think it is, and Brett Hundley. He said, I've invested 3 years in Brett Hundley, 2 years into Callahan, and it makes sense because you bring in somebody new to a system like that, even with the Saints, these quarterbacks are so much further along than Colin Kaepernick. I mean, Colin Kaepernick to come in mid-season is going to be behind the 8 ball wherever he goes.
Well, Hundley's been around for 3 years. Callahan's been around for 2. Of course, if Joe Callahan's name sounds remotely familiar, the Saints actually picked him up off waivers last year, and he was on the 53-man roster for a little while, and Garrett Grayson was still in the practice squad. So, and then the Saints cut ties with him, and the Packers brought him back. But yeah, I will say this, and we're going to have on Aaron Nagler from PackersNews.com. It's the Gannett website that runs basically all the Packers news from, say, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and the Green Bay Press-Gazette.
Press-Gazette, correct.
Got it right. And he's going to come on, and he put on Twitter the fact that they figured that he would have gotten that answer if it would have been, hey, are you going to bring in Tony Romo? So I think, I saw Aaron Nagler and some other Packers reporters say, look, that would have been the answer. And Pro Football Talk spun it to where they were angry about Colin Kaepernick. And look, it's the divisiveness of the entire topic and the name.
Well, Pro Football Talk will make a headline out of anything that gets clicks. And Colin Kaepernick gets clicks.
Sure.
That's what that site's all about. So if they could bring back Bountygate and Deflategate, they'd run stories with headlines on it because they know that's what drives traffic. But one other option in this, or one other interesting aspect to the quarterback room in Green Bay, is that Taysom Hill was on the Packers practice squad, or was in camp with the Packers, quarterback out of Brigham Young, who the Saints signed away. I guess they signed him after final roster cuts, and I can tell you the Saints love.
Did they pick him up off waivers?
Yes, I think they were trying to get him back, and the Saints love this guy.
They picked him up off waivers because if they wouldn't have made a waiver claim, the Packers would have probably
gone
taken him
back.
Yeah,
and they love him, and I'm sure that he's very familiar with the Packers system, and this is a guy. I think it's interesting because Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton are a lot alike. Their offensive systems are very similar. I think their mindsets are very similar. I think McCarthy likes to run the ball a little more than Payton does, but they're kindred spirits in a lot of ways about how they believe you win football games. And so I think it's interesting that they have the same eye for quarterback talent to some degree, because we've seen now the Saints go after Callahan. Now they brought in Taysom Hill. So there's a respect level, I think, from Sean Payton in what Mike McCarthy sees in a quarterback and the fact that he can develop these guys. And I would not sleep, and I said it yesterday, on Brett Hundley. Do not come with – I think Saints fans could fall into the trap of, oh, my gosh, there's no Aaron Rodgers. This is a win. That is a big mistake because that guy, I'm sure, is a talent, and they're going to have a game plan that suits him just for the Saints defense, and I think it's going to be a very difficult game.
Well, it's funny you say that because that was a topic of conversation yesterday in the locker room. Look, the Saints usually have Victory Monday, but I guess there was too many things that they wanted to clean up on tape, so they had him come in, and they're just coming off a bye, so they said, no, you guys come in. But, yeah, so players like Cam Jordan were very honest when asked, say, do you regret that you can't play Aaron Rodgers, of course, because you want to play the best? And Cam Jordan, I should have sent over the audio. Dave's even asked me, do you have audio? No. I said, I'm going to hang on to it, whatever. I'm just going to say it because it was a great It was a great soundbite. When he was asked, he said it like this. He looked at, it was our buddy Mike Triplett. He looked at him and just said, no. He regrets not playing him. No.
Right.
But the full quote is, no. You know you hate to hear somebody with such immense talent get hurt and be down for the year, but at the same time, we have a game to win, so hopefully this makes it push in our favor, but we don't know to what extent. So, of course, he was honest there, but he also brought up the fact that Brett Hundley has been under the Aaron Rodgers tutelage for the past 3 years, and they expect that just because Hundley hasn't played a ton, that they're not going to get some slouch who comes in and looks like Kevin Hogan and is a total nightmare in Cleveland, or when Brock Osweiler replaces Trevor Siemian and he looks like a statue and just a goob as normal. No, this is a different guy, and he probably knows the offense in and out, and it's going to be it's not going to be some cakewalk, and the Saints can't afford to look at anyone that way.
And here's the other thing. Sean Payton on his coach's show last night, he said something that raised my eyebrows a little bit that I don't think anybody's talked about. he said, I think we're going to be facing very similar weather conditions to what we saw in London, which was very misty and probably in the upper 50s. Well, the weather forecast for Green Bay on Sunday is rain, 62 degrees high, the low 46. So we're talking about probably it's going to be in the 50s. And if it's raining, this is going to probably be a different kind of game. No doubt it's going to be different than what we saw Sunday in perfect conditions in the Superdome. This is going to be bad weather, potentially wet weather, and it's probably going to be a running game. And actually, I like the Saints' chances in a game like that now with the way the offensive line's playing.
Yeah, let me just read off some of these odds because of the injury to Aaron Rodgers. And this is from Bovada, who they provide us plenty of fun odds. I'll just read their description. Last week, the Packers were NFC Conference favorites and trailed only the Patriots in the Super Bowl odds. They had the Packers at 5-1, and the Patriots just a slight bigger favorite at 9-2. Now this week, they've dropped the odds to 16-1, and now Packers win total is over/under is only 8.5 now. Will the Packers make the playoffs? They still have them at 2-3 to get in, yes, but 11-10, no. So obviously that's gotten worse. Brett Hundley, over/under on passing yards against the Saints this week, 230.5 yards. What do you think?
Wow, 200. I think I would go under.
I would agree,
especially if the weather's shaky.
Yeah, I would agree, and they're going to send the house. And I'm actually writing a column later on today about how the Saints have sent the house. Brett Hundley, his TD passes for this week, the over/under is 1.5, and they're still saying that the under is the favorite at 1-2, and you have 3-2 odds at the over. That's a tough bet, but look, you could get 2, and I don't know, but that's where he stands. Over/under on interceptions this week, the over/under is 1.5, and the under is still the favorite at 2-3, so they feel like he can still protect the football and not throw 5 picks for the game. And then, just for fun, odds to play in a game for the Packers in 2017 regular season. 4 quarterbacks. You ready?
Yep.
Brett Favre at 50-1. Eli Manning at 20-1. Tony Romo at 5-1. Colin Kaepernick 2-1 odds. Those are the 4 guys on the prop bet list. Woohoo, spicy!
One thing I would like to ask, why are you getting all these gambling odds things? Is it something we need to know about? A lot of emails with gambling-related odds. Is there something going on there?
Well, they're specifically sent to – they even put my name on them, so I don't know.
Are you being lured in?
If you see my picks throughout the week, no, the picks are terrible. Maybe I need the help, and they're just trying to sucker me in. They're like, Larry's so terrible on the radio with these odds and ends picks.
Let's take his money.
Let's take his money. No, I put them in my first and 10 column. I don't ask for them; they just come flying in my lap. So I'll take them. Whatever. They're interesting.
No, I love listening to those. I think it's fascinating that there's so many prop bets now and all these things. What are these guys just sit around and dream up these things?
Yeah, because they want to take your money.
Right, you're
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So let's take a quick break right here on the show. Don't forget, top of the 11 o'clock hour, we'll have Andrew Lopez to talk LSU, college football, and the Pelicans. We'll have Sean Fazan at 11:30, from Fox 8, and we will talk Saints and Pelicans. And yeah, so good show so far. So come on back, Sports1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
We already have 119 votes.
Your forecast
Twitter poll master. See?
New Orleans.
Catch the fever.
I'm all over.
Happy Tuesday from the Fox 8 Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino, and we have another beautiful day on tap with temperatures getting into the mid-70s for highs. Tons of sunshine and a nice little northeasterly breeze to go with it.
You should have added.
Overnight tonight, we'll keep those clear skies, and temperatures will fall into the low 50s on the North Shore by tomorrow morning. Low 60s on the South Shore.
I think that kind of implied.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist
just a winning
Shelby
record.
Latino.
They missed the playoffs.
This report is brought to you by
You can't write very much in there, you know that? Like, there's not any room to write long.
Stop by the Roundhouse Bar and Grill inside the Round
maybe if I educate you a little bit on the poll process. Can't write a lot.
Or dinner 7 days a
poll
week.
Process.
On the poll.
You need a tutorial from me, Jeff
Duncan. Production process.
Pollster master.
Cherished objects which have
it's funny though. most people do not expect them to be.
Mark Cuban, Martha
They're pretty realistic.
And Shaq show me, Harvey Levin, sometimes material things do matter. Objectified, airing twice Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, and again at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, only on Fox News Channel.
Did you see the? Did you see this? I assume you saw it.
Todd Frazier and Aaron Judge each with 3-run shots to help the Yankees beat the Astros.
He doesn't even touch the quarterback.
Right, minute and a half.
Yes, in New York, Houston still leads 2-1 heading into Game 4
Sacked him without touching
today,
him.
where the Yankees
then he
are
just goes down and
this postseason.
He brought that up yesterday. He thought that was hilarious.
I think we're somewhat built for this ballpark, number one.
No, but
number
Cam's
two, I think it's
reaction to Aaron Rodgers. He just turns and look, his Cam, he's like,
do on a daily basis.
No! Being honest. No! I'd rather not play him and win.
LA up 2 games to 9.
Yeah, who would want to play him? Come on.
Mike, do you feel cheated that you're not playing Aaron Rodgers?
No! It's a marquee doubleheader with the new look Celtics in Cleveland, and it's Chris Paul, James Harden, and the Rockets visiting the world champion Warriors in the Bay. National anthem protest front and center today as NFL owners and players meet in New York. And Tiger Woods cleared to resume full golf activity Monday, 6 months removed from fusion surgery on his lower back. That's sports. Jay Corwin, NBC News Radio.
140 votes.
In your attic, fully covered means fully insulated. If you can see your ceiling joists, you're losing heat and money. But you can easily add blow-in insulation yourself, and the Home Depot can help. The proper amount of insulation keeps your house warm.
10 seconds.
All right.
And when you need more, it shows. Cover up before winter gets here. Save on insulation and get a free blow-in machine rental with any 10-bag purchase. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
This is Anthony Davis of your New Orleans Pelicans, and you're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, your home for home team talk.
Thank you, Anthony Davis, as you sit up here on our well-decorated desk here at our NOLA.com Time Speaking studio. He's the only professional athlete represented on our little platform.
Yeah, we need to add to that a little bit. He's got a little gray hair. I had to get that gray hair. We know AD doesn't have gray hair yet.
If that was Roman Harper, that would not be enough gray hair. We'd have to, spray paint it gray.
I think Roman Harper was born with gray hair.
There's no question about that.
I mean,
poor Roman. He gets asked about that probably how many times in life?
I think he's embraced it. It's just like Anthony Davis has embraced the brow. I love that he embraces it.
You better embrace it if you got it.
You do.
Moneymaker. Well, the brow's made him money. I don't think Just for Men is called Roman Harper and got him and Keith Hernandez and Walt Clyde Frazier and you remember that commercial where they're sitting? Of course. Well, they're sitting on a dresser, and a man and woman are about to hook up, hang out, do whatever, Netflix and chill, and they're commentating, and I love it. No play for Mr. Gray. Poor guy. And then he gets his mustache and his hair colored, and I guess he has relations with that lovely lady.
A lot of women like the silver fox look. A lot of them.
This is true.
We used to, one of our former colleagues, Jim Varney, all the time used to get that from women. All the time. He used to hear it all the time. I'm just saying.
He also used to go out in Miami and get razors at 2 a.m., but that's another story for a far different show.
Let's quote the early returns on the Twitter poll.
Jeff is so excited. He's going to give us poll results. It's election day here. Look what you've done, Dave. Now he's all about poll results, running for office. Anyway, what do you have? First off, give the poll. Tell people where to find it to go vote, and then give the results.
All right. The question was on my Twitter account at @JeffDuncan_, which I know everybody knows and follows me already. But the question is, what should realistic expectations be for the New Orleans Pelicans this season? Very simple 3 choices: a top 4 seed in the West, a 5 to 8 seed in the West, or just simply a winning record. Doesn't matter if they make the playoffs. Surprisingly, most Pelicans fans, I think, are being very realistic. Only 3% of the answers or respondents said top 4 seed in the West, which we all know they're not going to make or unlikely to make. I'd say that's fair. 53% believe a 5 to 8 seed in the West, and 44% would believe just a winning record. miss the playoffs. If that happens, I think they're going to clean house.
What did you vote?
I didn't vote yet. Is that allowed to vote in your own poll?
Of course you can.
Oh, okay.
I voted in it.
I would say 5 to 8 seed.
Well, maybe you can't vote in your own poll. Go look that up on Twitter. See if you can vote in your own poll. See if you got Twitter help.
I think a 5 to 8 seed is perfectly realistic.
That's what I voted in the poll. So look, I will. Since we're odds making McGee here today on the show, from bookmaker.eu. I'm assuming that's a European website. The Pelicans, as of October 17th, they are not exactly the favorite to win the NBA championship. I'll just rattle off the teams, but they're higher up than maybe I give them credit for. They're basically middle of the pack, I'd say. You've got the Warriors, then Cleveland, Boston, then Houston, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Washington, Philadelphia, Toronto, Denver, Pelicans. So they're 13th among the NBA teams from this bookmaking site. The 13th best chance to win the NBA title.
If they were in the East, I think everybody would feel better about their chances. But they're in the West where the balance of power has shifted dramatically over the last 5 seasons, and I think they're going to be lucky just to get in the playoffs.
6 East teams are in there. Cleveland, Boston, Milwaukee, Washington, Philadelphia, and Toronto. Philadelphia, I mean, do they feel like all those young kids are going to come up and they're going to be dynamite right away? Yes. So basically they're saying that they figure Philadelphia will be the 5th seed in the East this year. And they've been a bottom feeder for how long?
Yes, but I mean, they've had a lot of bad luck with injuries, and they've got a lot of talent. Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, Joel Embiid. That's a formidable team.
They're assuming the Pelicans will finish 7th in the West by the calculations.
Seems about right.
Yes. So, and that's look. I think that is. I'm not sure how much that jumped. Actually, the Pelicans were. They give us the odds from May 30th to, and then they've updated them to the beginning of the season. Now, May 30th, the Pelicans. Let me do a quick count here. They're the 10th best team in the NBA. As far as to win the NBA title. So the fact that a bunch of teams made moves since May 30th, and you've got the draft and all this, so that's a long ways away. But as far as regular season MVP, Anthony Davis is in the mix. He's not mega high. You've got Kevin Durant is the favorite going into the season. LeBron James, then Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. The Greek guy. Giannis. Go ahead. Pronounce his name. I have no idea.
I'm not even going to attempt it.
The Greek guy from Milwaukee.
I actually knew it at one time, but I've forgotten.
I'm not even going to embarrass myself here. The Greek freak. The Greek Adonis. We'll call him that since his GA. Those are his initials. So the Greek Adonis, we'll call him. Then Kyrie Irving, Stephen Curry's way down the list. Then Anthony Davis. And then the others on the list are John Wall, Paul George, Chris Paul, Karl Anthony Towns, Nikolai Jokic, and Damian Lillard. And then, Rookie of the Year. Again, this is according to bookmaker.edu. It's definitely not a university. .eu. Lonzo Ball is the favorite to win the Rookie of the Year, followed by Ben Simmons, who you definitely got to consider him a rookie since he didn't touch the floor last year. So some interesting stats
just
there.
For future reference, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I'm not going to remember that.
So
the Greek Adonis. That's where I'm going to go.
He's a terrific player. I mean, I saw him in the All-Star game here last year, and I've seen him before, but just a freak of an athlete for a guy his size. And that's what you go to the NBA to see is these incredible athletes perform. I mean, it's amazing. You can enjoy. That's what's different, I think, about the NBA than, say, the NFL. I think fans there can really enjoy a great athletic play by an opponent. They're there to appreciate the athleticism to some degree. They want to win the game in the fourth quarter, but they're also there to see something amazing throughout the course of a game. And that's why when you go to see the Pelicans play, back in the day, you'd see them play the Lakers, there were tons of Kobe Bryant fans in the crowd. And it's like that when LeBron comes to town. It's a different kind of sport. There's a different fan dynamic.
I also think it depends on what your home team is. If the Pelicans or the Hornets were perennially good all those years, you wouldn't have these giant ovations. You'd have people booing and hissing the Black Mamba because your team is so good, you don't want to see him succeed. When your teams are just average and you're promoting, LeBron James is coming to town, buy tickets, Kobe Bryant, means your team's not that good.
No doubt. And that's where the Pelicans are at right now. I bet if we made a call out to the Pelicans PR department and asked what season ticket sales are at right now, we probably wouldn't get an answer because I bet it's not that good.
I bet it's not either.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I was wrong like in '87 once. But I bet we wouldn't get an answer on that. I'd like to know what it is.
I'd be curious too. I'd always be poll. What do you think? Another poll. Jeff is a poll machine. Pollster. Yeah, you're going to be. Next thing you know, you're going to be doing polls and running around to see who's going to win the mayor's race.
Well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm stick to sports.
Stick to
many of my Twitter followers have told me. But the poll I would like to do is who is the Pelicans' rival?
They don't have one.
Exactly. It's crazy. There's no Atlanta Falcons in the NBA for the Pelicans. None.
No.
They've not developed any kind of rivalry. The Thunder, is that it?
No.
Because they almost stole the Pelicans or whatever?
Maybe the Rockets because Chris Paul's there now. And because all their players went to Houston, Eric Gordon and Ryan Anderson.
I'm taking a poll.
Jeff is a poll machine. Here's a poll. According to bookmaker.eu, who is the first NBA head coach to be fired? And who's on that list? We'll bring you that next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder. Poll. I told you.
Saints, what can you say?
When I did a poll that one day, I got poll fever, dude.
I know. I got it right now.
Poll fever.
I can't put my finger on it. All these little
it's Jeff's crack.
Adding up.
Twitter polls.
I've seen
I love
7 and 9 teams for the last 3 years. This is not a 7 and 9 team.
Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Zika is still a threat, and its effect on an unborn child can be devastating. To prevent Zika, use insect repellent and condoms and dump standing water.
Maybe I should wait till the second hour. I'll do it the second hour. I'll let this one get a little more traction.
Zika. This message from the Centers for Disease Control and
Prevention.
Prevention.
Yeah, we're going to have and then you come back to it at the end of the show because we're going to be switching conversations.
$10? Go to Vistaprint.com today and you'll get 500 high-quality custom business cards for only $9.99. That's less than 2 cents per card. And at Vistaprint, your satisfaction is absolutely guaranteed. So
did you see the story?
It's easier to turn 500 strangers into connections. Just visit Vistaprint.com.
As I've been saying,
promo code 58
strippers back in 1995. Where's the outrage?
Good
Boston College is a good Catholic
university. Yeah, where's the outrage?
It's a good Catholic university.
Batches of the much anticipated.
Oh, by the way, they fired your boy finally.
Ridiculous.
Just a heads up.
And have
it's
been
ridiculous. In case you missed it.
China. Now for the bad news. DigiTime says
he's going to go somewhere and come back and beat our butts.
In case you missed it.
Far fewer than the expected 50
I can live with
million
him.
pre-orders
They do not
will be
need to
taken
fire
once
Tom
they open
Scherr.
later
It'd
this
be the
month.
biggest mistake in
Google
the history of
moons
mankind.
from Saturn and Jupiter, as well as dwarf planets Pluto and Ceres.
A couple other things we can talk about.
Full planet Venus to Google
Adam
Maps.
Silver
Once
doing away with the
Google
one and
Maps
done.
Planets,
I'd love to talk
you
about that
can
for a
spin the
second.
space objects around.
And then London
get more
Fletcher's
information on their place names
comments about
and zoom in
Fournette.
for a closer
Those will
look.
be
A
interesting
gigantic
items.
outdoor screen near London's iconic Piccadilly Circus will track cars and people.
Fournette is.
All right, 30 seconds.
Monster,
targeted
man.
ads. Hidden cameras
Yeah,
will
doing
analyze
better
the
than he
make,
did
model,
in
and color
college.
of cars,
I'm 5
as
and
well
1
as
in
the
one
age,
league.
gender, and even the
Oh, you got him?
names of
Yeah.
nearby pedestrians.
My backs are
in order to
Fournette
customize
and
ads for
Camara.
the local
Oh,
audience.
God.
Tech report. Larry Olson.
I took him in the
So
draft.
Deeper leagues?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
While
You're
many
set.
rose up
Took him, but I took Fournette in the first round, and I can't keep him.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's weird rules, but yeah.
So, pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
It's catchy. Who is that, Dave?
Britney Spears. Come
No
on,
way.
man. Yes.
I just liked a Britney Spears song.
Yes, you were jamming, bobbing his head, Dave, over here.
Yeah, see, I knew I would bring him over to the dark side.
Kentwood's Louisiana's finest.
Absolutely. Kentwood, Louisiana. Oh, boy. I could tell you one time when I was driving back from, it might have been either an LSU Ole Miss or an LSU Mississippi State game, and there was a Pepsi billboard of Britney Spears up, and it said, Pride of Louisiana, Britney Spears, and someone defaced it, and you're just going to have to.
Where was it at?
In Kentwood, and someone defaced the billboard and spray painted over one of the letters in Pride of Louisiana, and poor Britney.
Dave, like I believe we found the culprit.
Exactly.
Dave DeCourier.
No.
I can tell you when I started at the Times-Picayune in 2000, she was ascending to megastar status.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Chris Rose, colleague at the time, basically made his name following her around, writing about her, going to her house in Kentwood, following her career. It was an amazing time. You could not write enough about Britney Spears back then.
I remember my dad in his garage when they were living in Plano, Texas. He had a Britney Spears poster on his work area where his tools were hanging up and the workbench. Right. He had one poster in his garage, and it was Britney Spears.
Gosh, that's like us with Morton Anderson. We have one poster.
That's not the same thing.
Similar.
It's not the same thing.
They're separate.
I bet Britney Spears had more clothes on than Morton did in the poster we have.
It was close. It was close, but
this conversation took a disastrous turn.
We might have to I might have to do a poll on that. Which is a better poster?
Oh my gosh, Jeff in the polls. Oh my goodness, he's in the middle of making a poll here. Let me give you some Saints tidbits. Here we go, Jeff. Get on your soapbox.
Should I run for office? That would be a next poll.
Oh my
I think
gosh.
I'd get elected.
We have on 1280 someone who did run for office once.
Who's that?
Think about who's on our show list. Who would have run for office?
Corey?
Yes.
Corey ran for office?
Yes.
Where?
I think he ran for mayor.
Are we talking about student government, like in high school?
I'm pretty sure he ran for mayor. I'm telling you.
Of New Orleans? Or mayor of...
which one he did.
Mayor of Mandinas.
Let's see. I'm Googling Corey. I'm afraid of what I'm going to find. Corey Johnson, mayor.
There's nothing. You're not finding anything.
I can't find... Oh, whoa! No, I can't find it. He ran for something. Why is he not listening and texting me? He does this all the time, right? Oh, well.
The show has taken a turn for the worse.
The second result of Corey Johnson on Google is Corey Johnson gets owned on the air. That's a YouTube thing, so I guess that's enough Corey talk. But no, let's get some Saints tidbits here real quick before because we're going to switch conversation in the second hour. Well, not immediately, but interesting here. Nate Stupar, our own Herbie Teope, reporting that Nate will be likely on injured reserve towards ACL in the win against the Lions. And look, he's a special teams guy, and of course, you need to replace him because he's kind of been their ace special teams guy on that unit for the last couple of years.
He made the big play at the beginning of the game, diving into the end zone to save that punt down at the 2 or 3 yard line, and it led to the first touchdown. Do not underestimate how big of a factor he is on the Saints special teams. There's a reason they keep bringing him back. Sean Payton and the coaching staff on the teams really like his contribution, so it'll be a tough guy to replace, I think, on teams.
And a familiar face in the locker room yesterday, Kyrie Robinson was in the locker room yesterday.
Come on.
Yes, I know the Advocate reported that Kyrie had a workout, and usually you don't stick around after you have a workout. So he literally, when the reporters went in, put his hood on his head and ran out into the bathroom. And so maybe they want to conceal that he might be signed. So obviously that's part of it.
Why would they care about that?
I don't know. But maybe he's on the team. And look, the most important update of the show is that Corey Johnson ran for counsel at large.
Oh, he did. He did text you?
According to Corey Johnson, yes. He finished in 5th place out of 13.
That's not bad.
He got 4,500 votes.
That's more than I think you or I would have gotten, so kudos to Corey.
I don't know, poll. Who would be a better councilman at large, Jeff Duncan or Corey Johnson?
Well, Helena Moreno just got elected, right?
Right.
She's a former journalist.
Yes.
Worked in, WWL here in town and has had a very prosperous and successful political career. So it can happen.
And Corey agrees. He is the mayor of Mandinas, so you're correct. He runs unopposed to that. But yeah, so look, Kyrie Robinson potentially with the Saints. Don't know for sure, but it makes sense because you certainly do need a number 3 back with the Saints, and you lose Adrian Peterson, and you do have a hole there. And you could survive a week with that. And we saw how much they gave Mark Ingram the ball 25 times, gave Alvin Kamara the ball 10 times. But Kyrie Robinson, if he's healthy, and he certainly would know the offense, well, enough of it to come in and be a number 3 back.
Seems like a weird move to me. I don't understand the infatuation with running backs. I thought they liked Lasco. Is he hurt?
Well, they didn't like him enough to put him on the 53-man roster to start the season.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand.
Well, I haven't been impressed with Lasco running the football and being within the offense. The only times
he's had so few chances, though.
Yeah, but I feel like I've seen enough in the last couple of years, whether it's OTAs, mini camps, and preseason. He hasn't overly wowed me.
You weren't impressed with Adrian Peterson either. Look at what happened to him.
I got impressed with Adrian Peterson for like a week. And
I was really surprised that he had that kind of game. I mean, he's got the ability, but that was impressive.
Do I think he's going to hold up? No.
Yeah, I think if they give him that many carries at his age and coming off knee injuries, it could be tough. I think that's been the question all along.
Yeah, I agree. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Most important question of the day. Who would be a better councilman at large, Jeff Duncan or Corey Johnson? I think you need to make a poll. Go, Jeff. Hurry.
I am the poll master.
Oh, my goodness. This guy. Someone get him a stun gun from the Twitter polls.
Created a monster.
Andrew Lopez coming up next here. Talk LSU, Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Duncan Holder.
Never give in. Never give in. Never, never, never. In nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in.
Let's see how many votes we got.
Of honor and good sense.
I vote y'all have a dance-off.
I would dominate that.
Face of certain defeat.
Oh, no. Y'all could have like a rap battle because we're radio, yeah. So
I'm a former rapper, Dave. That won't be fair. I have experience.
You're going to lay the smack down on Corey?
BetterLifeAndValues.com.
I'm beginning to believe that other than love and religion, nothing changes your life more than moving your credit score 120 points. I'm John Hope Bryant, founder, chairman, CEO of Operation Hope, and we're working to expand and lift up your credit scores. Operation Hope is partnering with major financial institutions to bring hope inside to places where you shop and flock. Through the Hope 700 Credit Score Communities Initiative, we are helping people with free counseling, loan originations, modifications, and more. Go to OperationHope.org today.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
Well, the Packers say quarterback Aaron Rodgers' broken collarbone is a significant injury that will require surgery. During his news conference yesterday, some reporter asked Coach Mike McCarthy the obligatory "Are you bringing in Colin Kaepernick?" question.
Okay, I got 3 years invested in Brett Hundley, 2 years invested in Joe Callahan. The quarterback room is exactly where it needs to be, okay? We're fortunate to have a great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. We're committed to the path that we're on. We need to play better as a football team. And Brett Hundley, he'll be starting this week, and Joe Callahan will be the backup.
Meanwhile, the NFL Players Association has filed a request for a temporary restraining order to be heard today that would keep suspended Cowboys star running back Ezekiel Elliott on the field. NBA regular season tips off tonight with 2 marquee matchups.
And we're going to Lopes straight out of the after the beginning.
Warriors hosting the Rockets. I'm Deb Carson.
St. Jude continues to advance by increasing cure rates in childhood cancer. And donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Learn more at stjude.org.
Objectified, life stories of innovators, celebrities, and world leaders, told through cherished objects which have profound meaning. Superachievers like Tyler Perry, Mark Cuban, Martha Stewart, and Shaq show me, Harvey Levin, sometimes material things do matter. Objectified, airing twice Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, and again at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, only on Fox News Channel.
Allison is perfect. I mean, she'd never tell you that. She's humble and perfect. She likes everyone. She even likes her untidy roommate's weird guinea pig. Allison, wait, are you texting and driving? Allison, no. That's the exact opposite of what I was just saying about you. Why, Allison? Why? Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Good and bad news for Apple fans. Good news first. Reports surfacing that the first batches of the much-anticipated iPhone X have made it through the manufacturing process and have been shipped out of a factory in China. Now for the bad news. Digitime says the shipment only included roughly 46,000 phones, far fewer than the expected 50 million pre-orders that will be taken once they open later this month. Google adding moons from Saturn and Jupiter, as well as dwarf planets Pluto and Ceres, and full planet Venus to Google Maps. Once inside Google Maps for planets, you can spin the space objects around, get more information on their place names, and zoom in for a closer look. A gigantic outdoor screen near London's iconic Piccadilly Circus will track cars and people who pass by to display targeted ads. Hidden cameras will analyze the make, model, and color of cars, as well as the age, gender, and even the feelings of nearby pedestrians in order to customize ads for the local audience. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. Louisiana is more than just a place to visit. It's our way of life, and that means being outdoors. Join the nearly 2 million people who camped, biked, paddled, and hiked our state parks last year, as we invite you to do the same. Every corner of Louisiana has something to offer, from the world-class fishing at Toledo Bend to paddling at Fontainebleau, to exploring the ancient mounds of Poverty Point World Heritage Site. So fill up your car and staycation right here in our home, Louisiana.
Mental illness is more common than you might think. Health experts say as many as 18% of American adults and
we're calling Lopez here.
Suffer from diagnosable mental illness during any given year.
Anxiety disorders, depression and bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, substance abuse, and addiction.
Dr. Husseini Manji is with the pharmaceutical giant Janssen. He says, as with physical issues like broken bones, treatment usually involves a
Hey, I'm calling Lopez now, right?
Yes, sir.
The average house...
Okay.
Millions of microbes, including fungi, mold, and disease-causing bacteria. Researchers say toothbrush holders, pet bowls and toys, toilet seats, stove knobs, coffee reservoirs, and kitchen countertops contain the highest number. How they affect you apparently has a lot to do with what type, your age, and the strength of your immune system. Health Update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
All right, we got him. Cool.
Hi, this is Jennifer Coolidge. The American Heart Association says the disco song Stayin' Alive is the near-perfect beat for hands-only CPR. If you see a teen or adult collapse from cardiac arrest, you only need 2 steps to help save.
Every time I hear this commercial, I think of Duncan in like a butterfly suit, butterfly collars, you know.
Disco is back and it's saving lives.
I wish he was here to hear that.
To learn more.
No, damn it.
I know.
I
don't know where he is. He's talking to Tim Morris, a political columnist, about running for office.
Jeez Louise, this is really going too far now.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 on a Tuesday, October 17th. Jeff Dunc and Larry Holder here with you at our NOLA.com Time Speaking Studios. And before we get to Andrew Lopez, real quick, because he's on the line, of course, our LSU beat writer for NOLA.com and Time Speaking. What were you doing in the commercial break? You run into our political columnist, Tim Morris, and now you're really going to run for office? Is that what I overheard?
Yes. Just gauging my prospects. I think if I run on the pothole platform, I get elected in a landslide. Just fill the potholes, fix the streets, and everything else will take care of itself. It's the broken window theory that New York, I forget the mayor in New York, that he applied that years ago, and it worked. In New Orleans, I think if you just fix the streets, everything else, crime will go away.
Everyone will just be happier.
Corruption, poverty, everything, all the things that have plagued us for decades will all disappear magically if we just fix the streets.
Andrew Lopez, I'm not sure if you're still a registered New Orleans voter, but would you vote for Jeff Duncan on his pothole platform?
I am not registered there now. I would have to re-register or I don't know, vote as a dead person, whatever New Orleanians do.
Jeff could make that happen. Look, voter fraud, no big deal.
Yeah, I'm sure that still happens here.
It definitely has happened in New Orleans.
A pothole policy would work for me. I'm not going to lie. I think it would. I think some people might not hear the second part of that, and they think it's a pot policy, and I think you get votes for that too.
I didn't think about that.
Andrew Lopez has now become your campaign manager.
Yes,
I think that's a win.
I pay well. I would pay well, Andrew.
Don't make sure I'm not your PR guy, Jeff. We'll go down in scandal for sure. Some questionable photos,
we'll take
sure.
Clyde for that. Clyde can come with us.
There you go. Clyde. No, Clyde will bring the whole thing down in flames. Andrew Lopez, NOLA.com, Thomas Picayune, LSU reporter. Look, the sun's a little brighter in Baton Rouge, I'm sure. Coach O and all the LSU Tigers, they're just saying, look, Troy and Mississippi State never happened. Look, we beat Florida, beat Auburn. Just what's the general sense up there in Baton Rouge right now within the team and kind of within the community of Baton Rouge as far as have they calmed down? Are they on board? Are they still questioned? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think a loss right now will have people screaming from the Capitol building to have Coach O fired. But I think we're moving toward people understanding where we're at. And I think the biggest thing to me is I heard some people say, man, if we just didn't lose to Troy, we'd be 6-1 right now. We'd be in the top 10. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if you beat Troy, if you come back in that game and you beat Troy, I don't necessarily know that you win both of the next two games. I don't know if you win at Florida. I don't know if you beat Auburn. I think you needed that Troy loss to really have a kind of a come-to-Jesus meeting where everybody kind of put it on the table of what you wanted to do. And he talked about that. O talked about that yesterday of when Duke Riley came in and using his words, lit into the team, and I think it worked. And I think that's why you see a different LSU squad right now.
I agree with that. That's a great point. I think it's easy to say that in retrospect that you'd be 6-1, but I agree, Lopes. I don't think this team had the focus necessarily and the chemistry and camaraderie it needed until that galvanizing moment with Duke Riley and meeting with the team. And now going forward, this team has to feel so much better about itself. The thing that stood out to me on Saturday, I wanted to get your thoughts on it, is they finally were able to generate some big plays. We saw the big play to Russell Gage, the 70-yard run, and it seemed like Danny Etling, for whatever reason, all of a sudden in that game started connecting with DJ Shark and Gage on some big third down plays. Obviously, they had the big punt return, but they've got to have that going forward. They can't. I don't think this offense is talented enough, especially with the youth they have in the offensive line, to just grind out 10, 12-play drives like they used to do with Fournette and that group. Do you think this is a sign of things to come? We know they've got playmakers on the outside in Shark and Gage, and are they going to have that going forward in the SEC?
They're going to have to connect on some plays like that. I mean, you're also dealing with right now a limited Darius Geis still and a limited Darrell Williams, so you're going to have to start connecting on some deep passes. And I think the thing to me that I saw was you talking about Danny Etling. Danny also had a lot of plays where he's connecting on some out routes. I mean, he was really throwing some good balls. He had some throws to Russell Gage and Derek Dillon, aside from the deep balls that he's throwing to DJ Shark. That's one thing DJ Shark excels at. I feel like every game he's had a deep pass thrown to him that he's able to just go up and snag and come down with. So, to me, they're going to have to make some throws in the air to get stuff going and use more misdirection, use some of those trick plays. We saw how close Russell Gage came to having a 38-yard touchdown to Drake Davis. I mean, if that ball is just a little bit over, Drake Davis probably has a touchdown from Russell Gage on a wide receiver throw. So there's a lot to me that I think this offense needs to do, but Danny Etling becoming more comfortable is one of those things. And as long as that line can protect, that's a big thing. You're still looking at a line where I know Garrett Brumfield has started now half this season, but he's still a first-year starter. Ed Ingram's a true freshman. Sadiq Charles is probably going to be your left tackle for the next 4 to 6 weeks at minimum, depending on what's going on with KJ Malone. You have to get more protection, and you got to get some kind of inside rush. You can't just do what they did when I think it was 22 carries inside for about 60, 65 yards. You have to get better than that on the inside if you want to have success in the SEC.
Andrew Lopez, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, LSU beat reporter up in Baton Rouge, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. You mentioned KJ Malone, Ed Orgeron saying that he will miss, quote, a questionable amount of time. Didn't play against Auburn, saw him on crutches. And so it's something that how do you get healthy, say, if you are the offensive line and if you're the running backs, if you're having backups, and then it's like LSU can't take a break. It's like they can't take Ole Miss lightly and say, oh, well, we've got to sit Geis and we've got to sit Darrell Williams because they're a little banged up. You can't afford to do that. And so they got to play these guys. And then you've got other guys who have to just play as far as the offensive line. You're talking about depth. You've got to just deal with these young guys, and sometimes they get beat, and the beat-up running backs get beat up.
Let's start with the offensive line here. And I think the thing about the offensive line to me is the fact that when you go back and think about it, we talked before the season about the offensive line depth. They only had 11 scholarship offensive linemen, and that was the big thing. And I always said, as long as they survived injuries, they'll be okay. Well, they have not. And it seems like everybody's gotten hurt at least one point this season except for Bruiser, which is Garrett Brumfield, the left guard. Everybody has missed some sort of time. KJ Malone, be questionable for a questionable amount of time, tells me that he's probably looking at a meniscus or something like that. I would have to speculate based on the fact that usually tells you when somebody's going to be out for the year. And if he's not saying that KJ's out for the year, I would think that means there's a chance he could come back at some point. But these young guys are going to have to play, and they're going to have to just get after it. And there is no putting a veteran in. These are who you have. And I think and the staff has done a really good job at having those guys ready. He knows he can't turn around on the running backs and go to anybody else. You don't really have a lot of depth there. So it's kind of like a baptism by fire almost, and these guys kind of have to play up no matter where it is. You get a little bit extra leeway on the defense, so where you have, you lose John Battle at safety, you could put in an All-American, a high school All-American in Eric Monroe. So you have a little bit more time there to kind of figure out mistakes, but these young guys got to play, and that's why a lot of commits still come to LSU no matter what, because they're putting in these types of guys year in and year out.
Andrew, this looks like a very dangerous game to me for LSU. They're kind of feeling like they righted the ship a little bit. They've won a couple of games in a row against high-profile opponents. Now they go on the road and play an Ole Miss team that's down. Ole Miss got a nice win last week against Vanderbilt, probably a much-needed win for their confidence. I don't know. Do you sense any kind of potential letdown from LSU in this game, considering Ole Miss has struggled so far this year?
I think that if this might be one of those games that if they would have beat Troy, I would be more scared about this game. I think you're going to see a team right now that's kind of, and to use O's words, galvanized a little bit. And I think you're going to see a team who's going to be out. And I think the other factor here is, as much as O is going to downplay this, I assure you, everyone in that locker room wants to get a victory at Ole Miss. This one means a little bit more to O. He's not. I don't think he'll ever say it. He'll never admit it. He certainly won't say it to us. As many times as I've heard, this isn't about the team. This isn't about me. It's about the team. This team wants to win one for him at Ole Miss, and I think if this is another game, if this is going to Vandy or Missouri or something like that, maybe I could see a letdown. But I just think this team is gonna want to do something for O.
Of course, Ed Orgeron bombed out at Ole Miss, and this will be his first trip back to Oxford as the LSU head coach. Hey, Andrew, appreciate the time as always, and good luck covering these guys up in Oxford. Good times. Get a chicken on a stick.
That's what I'm going to find it.
They're not hard to find. They're at every convenience store in the the metropolis of Oxford. You can find chicken on a stick.
Suddenly, yeah, that suddenly was trending this week. Chicken on a stick has become a trending subject.
There you go. That's Andrew Lopez, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, LSU beat reporter. Why don't we take a break right here on the show? When we get back, let's kind of take a look at the landscape of the SEC, take a look at the landscape of college football. We didn't go over this much because, of course, we were so Saints-heavy yesterday, but for a weekend of football that was supposed to be so ho-hum in college football, so many teams went down. So many teams have already shaken up the college playoff system. And at this point, who knows who's going to be joining Alabama in the Final Four come the beginning of January.
That's why that LSU win was so huge. I mean, their season now, the way things are going, they're still in play for a lot of big goals with only 2 losses.
Are you saying they're going to be part of the college football playoff?
No. But
are you sure?
Maybe something below that.
Maybe a Sugar Bowl?
Yeah, something along those lines, which they lose to Auburn, you know they're going to lose to Alabama.
So we're not going to see a Tulane LSU game in the Walk-Ons Independence Bowl anymore?
Not anymore, no. Not after Tulane
made you look foolish.
Laid an egg.
Made you look
make me look foolish. They made themselves look foolish.
No, they said they were the best team to ever be in Louisiana.
I said you could consider it.
Poll. Is Jeff right or wrong about Tulane being the best team in the state of Louisiana? Poll.
I did not say that.
Poll. Am I a liar?
Yeah.
Poll. 150%
Telefib Tuesday.
It continues here.
It continues
on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Duncan Holder. Telefib Tuesday. That's what it should be.
Telefib week.
Enjoy wines from around the world.
I'm just making you look better for your campaign pitch.
So I got 287 votes in my poll. I'm going to another poll.
Which one?
I'm doing who's the rival.
Get your ticket at Wine on the River.
I don't think they'll know.
Presented by
I'm going to say they don't. I'll give them one option they don't have one. I bet you that dominates. That'll be perfect.
President Trump is predicting a short-term fix on health care followed by a long-term fix.
Poll icon.
Speaking at the White House, Trump said the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is dead and should not even be mentioned anymore.
How should I word it?
Which team ended billions of dollars in federal subsidies to insurance companies. Trump said the gravy train to big insurance companies is over. However, critics of the president's action says those subsidies help keep health insurance affordable. Removing them will raise premiums on 70% of the people in states that voted for Trump in the presidential election. The president is sounding bullish on the economy.
Carson Wentz is now the favorite to win the MVP.
We were in the ones.
According to Bovada.
And now the last quarter we were at 3.2%.
Oh, with Aaron Rodgers out.
And we're going up higher.
Tom Brady.
So we're also talking about many millions of jobs.
And they're 5-1.
Trump says there's optimism across the U.S. He repeated a call for massive tax cuts and serious tax reform. The president also cited a need for spending cuts and said welfare reform needs to be considered. Fed Chair Janet Yellen says the economy is in good shape, citing good employment numbers and more investment in the economy. Yellen told the
Thunder,
group of
Rockets,
30, that's a collection of private sector bankers and international policy experts, that benchmark interest rates will most likly rise
at the
end of the year. How much is still unknown.
Some of those are even a stretch.
Say the Charlotte
0.25% increase.
Hornets, would you?
The Fed also announced it would reduce their holdings of treasuries and mortgage bonds because they think the economy is strong enough on its own. The Nordstrom family is putting its plans to take the company private on hold. The retailer said it would continue to review its options after the holiday period. Shares of Nordstrom stock fell after their announcement. Nordstrom has been unable to find suitable terms for debt financing as investors sour on the slumping retail industry. And Ruby Tuesday is changing hands. The casual dining restaurant chain is being purchased by private equity firm NRD Capital.
I don't think I can
Consumer
vote.
Business News.
No, I don't think you can.
NBC News Radio.
You tweeted the
Habitat for Humanity builds
Poll.
houses and so much more. A Habitat build site is where hanging a door opens a world of opportunity, where turning a screw turns the page, and where a simple key can unlock a brighter future. You see, Habitat for Humanity builds houses and so much more.
30 seconds.
What will you build? Visit Habitat.org to learn more.
Wine on the River, presented by Southern Glazers, WGNO TV ABC, and NOLA 38, the CW. Saturday, November 11th at Audubon Aquarium Plaza from 3 to 6. Limited VIP and distribution on sale now at wineontheriver.NOLA.com. Proceeds benefit the Louisiana Hospitality Foundation.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Sean Fazan, Fox 8, WVUE TV is going to join us in about 13 minutes. Next segment, talk little Saints. Of course, they are enjoying their day off. Prepping for Green Bay, I'm sure, has already begun. They at least have some game film on Brett Hundley, so we'll see how that goes. We'll talk with Sean Fazan coming up in the next segment. And Jeff, you have, as I just put on Twitter, you have become quite the pole dancer on today's show.
Pole daddy. I'm the pole daddy.
That's copyright infringement.
Oh, sorry.
You just totally crushed your campaign. Nope, not going to happen.
We have 294 votes in the first poll, asking what realistic expectations should be for the Pelicans. 53% of respondents say a 5 to 8 seed in the West. 44% say simply a winning record. Only 3 think top 4.
And what's the next poll you've got up, Mr. Pole Dancer?
Well, we've already got 14 votes.
Woo! Party on!
Landslide. And this is an interesting question, something you and I have talked about off the air many times. We know that the Saints' main rival, without question, is the Atlanta Falcons. Who's the Pelicans' main rival? The Oklahoma City Thunder, the Houston Rockets, the Memphis Grizzlies. Someone suggested I add the Spurs in there after the fact, or they just don't have one. And right now, early on, 44 votes, 75% of the respondents say they don't have one.
I voted for they don't have one.
Yeah, I mean, they don't.
They've got to be good and have consistent battles with teams to have a rival. It's not a rivalry if you're just getting beat all the time. I mean, it's just not. So
yeah, I mean, the Warriors are not a rival.
Right. And someone mentioned the Spurs. They're not really back and forth. The Spurs have their number typically, and you got to be good and have back and forth battles to have a rivalry. So that's just not the case anymore. That's why, remember, LSU's big rival used to be Ole Miss in football. Well, when LSU has won the vast majority of the games the past bunch of years, that rivalry has gone away, and then Alabama has become LSU's biggest rival.
Well, not really.
Well,
they've lost 6 in a row, and they're going to lose 7 in a row next month.
They're still a rival.
In whose mind?
LSU's mind.
Exactly.
Alabama's big rival is Auburn. I get that.
I don't think – I said this before. I don't think they will beat Alabama again while Nick Saban is the head coach. I really don't.
It'd be a fluke, probably.
Maybe they get a game in Baton Rouge like they had last year that's some low scoring, and they get a fluky turnover and get control of the game with a great defense. That's the only way they're going to win. That's kind of what happened when they won in Tuscaloosa a few years back.
Well, how wild is this that Saban's protege, Kirby Smart, easily seems like they're the best team that could give Alabama a chance at an upset. And look, all you got to do is look at the AP Top 25, and it's essentially Alabama and everyone else. I know they've got several undefeated teams still left. Penn State 2, Georgia 3, TCU, Wisconsin, they're all undefeated. But look, Ohio State's had a loss. Clemson's had a loss. Look, Miami's 5-0 and trying to make a push with Mark Richt. But look, you look at the landscape, and you would have thought at one point, whoa, Oklahoma could be up there and USC could be up there, and they've kind of taken a dip. And outside of Alabama, and I saw this on PTI yesterday afternoon, Wilbon and Tony are debating which one team do you even think could challenge Alabama? And one of them said Penn State. I forget who the other one is.
Penn State is not going to challenge Alabama.
I don't think Penn State.
They get trucked.
I don't think Penn State's. That's smoke and mirrors to me.
I think this year Alabama's going to cruise. I don't see anybody even in their wheelhouse. I don't see anybody at their level.
So you don't think Clemson can make a return back?
Clemson's got the athletes defensively. I just think right now they're transitioning offensively, and their quarterback got hurt. The young kid got hurt against Syracuse. They lost really all chance to come back in that game. Georgia, I don't know about Georgia. They're kind of limited at quarter. You got to have a great quarterback like Deshaun Watson to beat Alabama. You really do. I mean, look how great he is playing right now. And I actually had this conversation. I forget where I was last week, but somebody was watching a game on TV. I was out somewhere in New Orleans, and the guy was just trying to say that the Clemson win against Alabama was a complete fluke.
Complete fluke?
Yeah, and
no.
I said, have you seen what Deshaun Watson's doing to the NFL? I think it's 3 straight games now. He's had at least 3 touchdown passes. The guy is a terrific talent and a great leader, and they have great players around him, but you have to have a great quarterback to be able to move the ball against that great defense.
I think Georgia can test Alabama, and they'll play in the SEC title game. They don't play in the regular season, do they? I don't think they do. And so I think, though, what if Georgia gets and Alabama get to the SEC championship game undefeated? I don't care which one loses. Both should be in the playoff. I think you got 4 spots. Who's going to bump you out? Maybe a Clemson or an Ohio State. Look, I know there's going to be some jostling there, but if Georgia gets to the SEC title game undefeated and loses a close game, now if they get trucked, they're going to get bumped. But if it's a 10-point game, 14-point game, I think you could have 2 SEC teams in that Final Four.
I think if Ohio State keeps winning, they could sneak in there and give them trouble.
They can jump back up?
Yeah, if they get in there, because they've got the ability. I haven't seen Miami play. I think they've got a young quarterback. That Mark Richt's done a good job there. And don't underestimate. I know Auburn looked pretty bad the second half against LSU, but Alabama's still got to go to Auburn. They've got to play on the Plains. That's always a huge emotional game. And Auburn does have a defense that can control Alabama and keep the game close. And then anything can happen in the fourth quarter, as we've seen over the years in that rivalry. That game will be tough.
And you look at the rest of the teams that are lurking, the big-name teams, like Washington got in there. Everyone watches USC for Sam Darnold. Do I think they trip up at some point? Yeah, so I don't think they're going to be a major player. I still think Oklahoma could maybe give a team a run for their money because, like you were saying, if Oklahoma is a one-loss team and they would beat Oklahoma State en route to that.
Yeah, they'd be dangerous.
Baker Mayfield can make it dangerous against an Alabama.
I agree. I think it takes somebody like that with a NFL level quarterback, and they wouldn't be intimidated. I mean, they beat Alabama a few years ago.
They went to Ohio State and trucked them. They're not intimidated.
And it takes a team like that, I think, that's not intimidated by Alabama because there's a mystique to those crimson uniforms and helmets. I mean, people sometimes walk on the field and have no chance against them.
Yeah, like Vandy. Oh, remember? Oh, Vandy was going to have a chance. No, 59-0. No, thanks. Yep.
Not quite.
Sorry about that, Nashville, Tennessee.
Let me real quick before you go to break, because we were talking. I did want to talk about London Fletcher's comments. Did you read those?
I did. From
about
your post.
Leonard Fournette. Yes. He compared him to Bo Jackson. He says, we haven't seen a combination of size, speed, and power since maybe Bo Jackson. He can take it to the distance. He can run through you. He'll run over you. He'll run around you. That's Leonard Fournette. He has taken the NFL by storm. I think if Deshaun Watson were not having such an incredible year, he'd be the front runner along with Kareem Hunt for Rookie of the Year.
Well, I think he's going to sustain. I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to sustain.
Really?
I don't see that. Look, I think Kansas City got hot, and I think they're gonna scale back here.
Steelers shut them down pretty well, but the way Watson's playing, he has to be considered the front runner right now. But he's setting records.
Well, if you can get the Texans to the playoffs and such, like I do think, and he's a quarterback, I think that matters.
But
for
Fournette has changed the fortunes of Jacksonville's franchise, along with another Louisiana prospect, Cam Robinson, who ended up at Alabama in a big recruiting battle with LSU. He has solidified their line. They had line problems for years. He looks like a steal. I think he went in the second round.
Real quick, who would you think is a better comparison to Leonard Fournette, Bo Jackson or Adrian Peterson?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think maybe Bo Jackson.
I feel like Bo is a better comparison.
Yeah, he's a little more powerful, I think, than Peter. I don't know. Peterson's just a great all-around runner, but I think Bo Jackson.
Power and speed. I think Fournette's faster than Peterson, and Bo, of course, is blazing.
Yeah, and I tell you, Fournette had a great run the other day where he did the spin move on a linebacker, and we saw that at LSU. I think that's an underrated ability that he has. He has some elusiveness for a big man. Rare elusiveness.
Absolutely. Sean Fazan coming up here next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report brought to you by Take 5 Oil Change.
Finally fall. We are seeing some chillier conditions going into this afternoon, still warming through the 60s, and we'll only top out in the low 70s for the day. Lots of sunshine.
I'm getting some support from my pothole policy on the
weather
YouTube
around
feed.
here.
Thank you.
Not quite boots and sweaters just yet, but
crusty Jeff
definitely
Duncan
going
pothole
in the right
platform.
direction.
I love how I got labeled
Weather
old.
Authority and Bounce TV.
Old because I complain about traffic. Why is that an old
Take
thing?
5 Oil Change, making oil
People
changes easy for over 30 years.
Marcus can
Take 5
appreciate that.
locations
He has to
open
make that
early,
drive
stay open
every
late, and are also
freaking
open on
day.
Sundays. Experience the oil change that makes you smile
You get
today.
on,
Take 5 Oil Change.
You get on the Bonnie Care
fastest
Spillway,
oil
nobody
change on the
gets
planet.
in the right lane. They all get in the left lane. What is the
all
problem?
women who have been diagnosed
Marcus is crusty too.
In February
I've been on the phone with
Johnson
them.
& Johnson baby powder was ordered to pay $72 million by a jury.
Y'all unbelievable. Y'all two can replace
People
Scoot.
get on the left lane. They refuse to get in the right lane.
Y'all two can go on WWL, replace Scoot, and talk about traffic and
can increase the risk of contracting
there are plenty of
ovarian
young
cancer.
people
If you or
that don't
family
like
member has
left
been
lane
diagnosed
driving
with
slow
ovarian
people.
cancer and used Johnson & Johnson or shower to shower baby powder prior
I mean, that's
to the
breaking the
diagnosis,
law.
call
You're breaking
All right, I got
laws.
Sean.
All right.
today 800-457-3280.
I'm aggressive. I'm an aggressive
Says
driver.
OJ.
Absolutely.
Now,
drives me
Fazan
berserk.
is with Fox 8 Sports, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, I have two listings of Sean Fazan in my phone. One is Fox 8 Sports. The other says Voice of the
Probably heard of him.
Pelicans. I'm like, he's not the voice of the Pelicans.
No, that is Sean Kelly.
3280.
So what do you think of the Saints start, OJ?
7-3280.
I'm a college student and could use advice about my student loan.
65% say the Pelicans don't have a main rival.
to pay back.
I graduated and got the help I needed to pay back my loan in full.
20.
We're the NFCC, the National Foundation for
45 seconds.
nationwide that provide comprehensive financial
YouTube
reviews
Live
and
with
student
OJ.
loan counseling. Call 877-406-6322.
You don't even want
less miles on the show. You want OJ
I'm
on?
not getting let jerk on there. Oh, excuse my
There's
language.
a season for everything. And right now, it's save up to 30% on
All of a
appliances
sudden, he's
season
Mr.
at the Home
Media.
Depot.
Yeah,
with special
right.
buys
Oh,
on
good job.
innovative appliances that do more. Like a Maytag top freezer refrigerator with extra deep door bins
He
to
got a
free up
huge
shelf
ovation
space.
at the game
It's
on
just
Saturday.
$498.
Yeah, and I'm like, all
You
these people
save
that ran him out of
$150.
town.
Savings are in
They're
season.
happy
with up
as
to
long as he's not the
30% off
coach.
appliances at the Home Depot. More
I
saving.
mean, he helped win that thing. So.
Here we go.
It's on Lacey Store for details.
That looks so bad now.
With Sabins.
Our insiders are talking your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I don't think this is Britney Spears. I know you're
No.
jamming.
Fifth Harmony.
Who?
Fifth Harmony.
I don't know who
Fifth
these
Harmony.
people
Who
are.
sings that song called Replay? You know that song?
No, I don't.
I can't think of who sings it. Anyway.
Is that some old people band?
Exactly.
No, here we go.
There was like the Commodores in
No,
1948.
it's like a recent
The
song.
Coasters?
It's a recent song. It was a big hit. Shawty's like a melody in my head that I can't keep out. Come on, you've heard that song. Yaz. 2010.
What is going on with this show the past 2 days?
I don't know.
No, you haven't heard of it. Oh, all of a sudden the young hipsters here haven't heard a replay. It was like the #1 hit in America.
Well, let's ask Sean Fazan. He's younger and cooler than both of you and me, and more athletic and better looking. So, Sean Fazan, do you have any idea? Do you have any idea what Jeff is talking about?
I kind of got the idea of what he was talking about, but he lost me a little bit there. So, yeah, I'll say yes, but I'm really not sure.
I'll say yes.
That's a smart move by a smarter man. Sean Fazan, WVUE TV, Fox 8 Sports, join us right here on Dunc and Holder. Sean, are you feeling great like I am? It's a new day. The Saints are above 500. There's new storylines. It's as if the past 4 years just never existed.
And I tell you what, that game, to get that win and to get over 500, they downplayed it after the game, but I just think inside that organization, that mental block, that mental hurdle that they have not been able to clear for the last 3 years, really, I really think it's bigger, it's more significant than I think maybe they're letting on. To get that victory, and look, that game, we went back and kind of looked at that in-season game to get over 500 the last 3 years, and every game was weird. Every game, 14 was the game against San Francisco. Jimmy Graham catches the Hail Mary, but gets called for offensive pass interference. 15 was the game against the 1-6 Titans. They lost in overtime. It was that crazy play where Keenan Lewis and Jarvis Byrd supposed to get the interception, it tips, and Delaney Walker catches it and runs for a touchdown. Then it was last year was Leaper, against Denver. So. And look, it followed the script, right? It was one of the craziest games we've ever seen, and the Saints were able to hold on and overcome. And all of a sudden, you're starting to see a lot of things that you like about this team. In particular, I mean, what else can you say about the defense? I mean, they've just come to play these last 3 weeks, and I mean, I think they're getting closer and closer to being for real.
Yeah, Sean, I tell you, I think the job that Dennis Allen and that defensive staff have done has been overlooked. They pushed all the right buttons. Larry and I have talked about it on the show before. They're blitzing a lot. It seems like all of his blitzes are either getting home, they're putting the proper pressure on the other quarterback, and they're not getting burned on the back end now. I think he's got the confidence in Lattimore and Crawley to send the house after these quarterbacks, whereas in the past it could have resulted in disaster downfield. Now, even if the quarterback gets the ball off, they're right there to make a tackle or break up the pass.
Yeah, I think that's huge. The trust in the secondary, and the secondary has obviously earned that trust. And I'll take it one step further with Dennis Allen. It's not just that he's blitzing more. Just take a look at some of the pre-snap looks that he's giving defenses. I mean, each week there's 4 or 5 different looks that you haven't seen the week before. This week you had Cam Jordan kind of playing that 5 technique, 3-4 defensive end look with a stand-up guy next to him. Normally it's inverted where he'd be the guy on the edge by himself. Even if he was playing that 5 technique. So I think it's a situation where you had better talent. Dennis Allen now I think has a firm grasp on what his players can and cannot do, and they're going out and executing. And look, good defenses usually mean you have good players, and they have good players. And I've always thought Dennis Allen was a good coordinator. I didn't think he called a good game the first game of the season against Minnesota, but since that time, there's been less coverage breakdowns. There seems to be a good read on what to do pre-snap and what to do post-snap. And obviously the results are speaking for themselves. I mean, these last 3 wins have all been by double digits. So, I mean, it's been a nice little ride here.
Sean Fazan, WVUE TV, Fox 8. Join us right here on Dunc and Holder. Sean, let's spin it forward. You are a defense, and you're not going to be facing Aaron Rodgers. You're going to be facing Brett Hundley, and a lot of players were asked about not facing Aaron Rodgers in the locker room. Cam Jordan was as honest as humanly possible, saying no, he will not feel cheated that he won't be playing Aaron Rodgers. But look, you assume that they're the Green Bay Packers. They still have Mike McCarthy. Brett Hundley's been around this offense for 3 years. I think this defense is still going to have to come out and play extremely well in a place where they haven't had a ton of success in Lambeau Field. Sean, how do you think this defense can respond to a Packers team without Aaron Rodgers, and yet they still have some of their primary weapons on the perimeter?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I actually feel like this is going to be one of those weeks where Sean Payton is not going to be pleasant to be around, especially around this team, because look, they're a confident bunch right now. You got a lot of young players, a lot of new players experiencing success for the first time. You know, it's easy to get a backup quarterback you're playing this week, his first career start, if I'm not mistaken. It's easy to kind of lose focus, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Sean Payton was not a pleasant guy this week around his team, just to make sure they stay mentally sharp. You know, Brett Hundley's going to have the week to prepare. He was inserted mid-game this week, so he'll have a week to prepare. He was drafted for a reason. No, he's not Aaron Rodgers, but he can still I'm sure he can still be a competent quarterback, and as you said, he has some weapons around him. So the absolute worst thing the Saints could do is take all this positive momentum and go in with a big head because they're playing against a backup quarterback and get beaten and really kind of erase all the momentum that you have built. So hopefully the mentality is still the same, the confidence is still the same, and the focus is still the same. And if Sean Payton has to step in to make sure those guys remain focused, I would absolutely expect him to do that. So absolutely, I think the absolute worst-case scenario is to come in to Green Bay knowing you now should win. I mean, the line moved 10 points and lay an egg in Green Bay. But it's a tough place to play. It really is. So the Saints have got to stay sharp this week.
Sean, one of the other things that's working in the Saints' favor right now is the rest of the NFC is just completely wide open. Obviously, the injury to Rodgers throws kind of a wrench in the Green Bay Packers' momentum. And right now, no one's run away with anything in the NFC, including the NFC South. I mean, the Saints are right in the mix now, so that has to weigh into their psyche. And that every week now it becomes even more important for if you have aspirations of seeding down the road or a division title. Certainly, the Falcons have come back to the pack, and right now the NFC South's wide open.
Exactly. I mean, every game on your schedule is winnable, and there's been tough parts of the schedule, there's been weaker parts of the schedule, and every game on the schedule is winnable, but every game is going to be tough. I mean, every game in the NFC South is going to be tough from here on out, regardless of who you're playing against. And I agree with you. Other than maybe Philadelphia, I mean, I can't really picture a team that's really running away with anything right now. I would have said Green Bay had they not lost Aaron Rodgers. So all the more reason to stay sharp and focused is because you have a real chance. You're not just having success where, the last 3 years, if you go on a 3-game win streak, it's been, all right, we got ourselves back to 4-4. Where in this case, you're 3-2, you still got a lot to play for, and you have a realistic chance, a very realistic chance of really kind of catapulting yourself in the conference. So, absolutely, I think there's so much to play for now. That's why avoiding that early season hole and getting to where you're at now was so important. It just kind of opens up a whole realm of possibilities, realistic possibilities, and the Saints got to have the right mindset to get there, and there's still a whole lot to play for, and there's a lot to really gain by playing well these next couple of weeks.
Sean Fazan, WVUE TV, Fox 8 Sports, join us right here on Dunc and Holder. Sean, you look at the offense, and obviously the passing game wasn't super sharp, but it's something where you feel like the last couple of games, the Saints haven't needed to lean on that game. And Drew Brees doesn't have to be Hercules, and they could still win handsomely. What do you make of the way the Saints have operated the offense these last couple of weeks? They're just working Willie Snead back into this thing. Offensive lines being shuffled, but you had Teron Armstead back. What do you make of the way that this offense has played the last few weeks, and what do you see the progression possibly going forward?
No, I like it. You don't have to always win with Drew Brees throwing the ball 50 times and 350 yards and having to get 4 touchdowns through the air to win. I mean, you're able to win with 37 carries like they had Sunday. And, look, when I went back and I watched most of the offensive side of the ball on my film study, it certainly looked like they went in with a mindset of running the ball a lot. Probably had a lot to do with the fact that Nada was out and they lost one of their D tackles at one point in the game, if I'm not mistaken. There was a lot of 12 and 13 and 21 personnel early in that game. And then, you get the big defensive touchdown, so you're able to kind of race out to an early lead. So you want to run the ball, in that regard as well. So I think right now the offense is just fine. And if Drew Brees has to throw for 350, he's certainly capable of doing that. But if you can run the ball 37 times and with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara and win that way, that's certainly great as well. You don't always have to depend. It's good to not always have to depend on, like you said, Drew Brees to be Superman to win games. You can do it in different ways. And this was a totally different way of winning, and one we haven't seen in a long time, right? I mean, 3 defensive touchdowns, which is the first time ever. Not since 2009 have they been so opportunistic, and then running the football as well as they have. Look, and I don't think it's any coincidence that, their best day running the ball came, the week after they traded Adrian Peterson and got Teron Armstead back. So, very definition of win-win if you look at Peterson's stats. So, I think the offense is just fine. I thought Teron Armstead was just fine. I thought Andrews Pete had a great game. And I think this is your 2018 starting offensive line came a little bit early, but I like the way that unit's playing.
Sean, looking at this team now, they're relying so much on this 2017 draft class. Marshawn Lattimore looks like a home run at cornerback. Ramczyk's playing well at right tackle. Marcus Williams is starting. And Alvin Kamara, I mean, what more can he do? Do you think this is their best draft class since that famed 2006 class?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you talk about instant impact. I mean, you have, as you said, Lattimore, who looks like he's going to be a great cornerback. You have Ramczyk, who's been put in a tough, difficult couple of circumstances, and he's really excelled and played well. You talk about Kamara. You talk about Marcus Williams. I mean, a guy kind of had a sneaky good game Sunday was Trey Hendrickson as well. So I was not expecting this much this quickly. I knew they had a pretty good class, but for them to contribute this much this quickly, that's what, 5 starters if you count Alvin Kamara, and obviously Angeloni went down. I thought he was having a pretty good year as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's been one of the underlying themes of this year, and I think, time will tell in terms of the longevity of the class, but I think in terms of instant impact, you'd have to say this is up there with that 06 group.
All right, Sean, one more question, and the most important question maybe of your professional life. Are you ready for a Jeff Duncan pregame appearance on Fox 8 since I will not be traveling to Green Bay? Jeff, are you ready for that?
Bring it on.
I think we need to prepare Sean here. We need to prepare in case you go on like a tangent on traffic or something.
As long as I don't have to wear like a cheese head or something, we're not going to do anything.
I think you'll be fine. Here's the thing, though. It won't just be a Jeff Duncan filling in for Larry Holder. It'll be Juan Kincaid filling in for Sean Fazan. So it'll actually be, unlike Sean and Larry, normally for pregame, it'll be Juan and Jeff. So I think the audience is finally ready for it. I think we could bring it to them. Hope you guys do a great job.
I'm so glad Sean has smartly avoided the Jeff tornado. He's been on like a rampage the last couple of days. I've needed a stun gun for him.
I think that's the A-team. That's going to be the A-team there.
Down in Cheeseland.
There you go. Sean and I will be maxing and relaxing, or maybe not. Yeah, exactly. So Sean Fazan, Fox 8 Sports, WVUE TV. Hey, Sean, appreciate the time as always, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Sean Fazan. Let's take one more break, and Jeff can't wait. The results of the Twitter polls will be announced again because he's so giddy once.
Do you want more polls? I can do more.
I don't think we. No, but luckily we've only got about. Of course, you can have a poll every day.
I'm doing a poll every day.
We'll see.
It's called engagement. Have you heard that word?
We are engaging the audience.
Interaction
by just existing. We got YouTube.
By existing.
Exactly. We're engaging the audience.
Existential engagement.
By just existing. So, also, I forgot to complete a tease that we did earlier of my odds and ends. Which NBA coach is slated to be fired first, according to the odds makers? I forgot to bring that to you.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
I know you are. You're just wanting to dive into the polls. I know, Mr. Poll Dancer, Jeff Duncan
Daddy
here. Exactly. So come on back, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Here's a little something we got to talk about. Looks like they're bringing this out for the game.
Yeah.
The passion.
Inbound to Frazier, left wing 3.
Down
low on the elbow. What a pass.
That's awesome.
Alley-oop down low. Blake Paul layup.
The excitement.
Floats it up. Good. At the buzzer it counts. Top Reynolds. Wide open 3.
Buried it.
Joe Hom put up something. They were like putting it.
You're gonna put it up on the scoreboard.
That's what they did.
Returns on Friday, November 10th.
No, this is like it got like in a fire or something. They had to remake it. They were gonna bring it out this year, and it got derailed.
Urges you to make a donation
to
help out the family of Marcus McNeil, the NOPD officer shot and killed in the line of duty during the early morning hours of October 13th. Officer McNeil leaves behind behind
I don't have
a
an
life and
ACL.
two small children.
Can't play.
You can help by donating what you can to the
I'm
Marcus
not going to get
McNeil
hurt
Benefit Fund
playing in
at
media
any
basketball.
Whitney Bank location. That's
you're
the
really
Marcus
sounding
McNeil
correct.
Benefit
I'm not going to
Fund.
get hurt.
I'm not going to hurt my knee. Like freaking Clyde come barreling into me. He would like fall. Clyde with no freaking agility, stumbling. I can see it happening. He'd land on somebody else's ankle. He'd fall into my knee.
The hospital has put off the boy's life-saving transplant.
He tweets out a photo of him like
Dickerson shows he can comply with the terms of his parole. A new study by Cigna, one of the nation's largest insurance
he's in a body cast.
6 out of 10 millennials.
The Scott Kushner stumbled into him and all hell broke loose.
Costs. Many playing Russian roulette with their health.
That's very concerning.
No,
I mean,
it was just
Will. Happen to anybody regardless
Will
of
tweeted
health,
something.
Saw the picture.
He saw the video of him hitting the three.
He hit an NBA three.
He says millennials could protect them.
All right, 30 seconds.
For voluntary benefits in their workplace, but many don't, figuring if a health crisis occurs, they'll use credit cards or borrow from a 401k. Health update. Sarah Chancellor, NBC News Radio.
Okay, 214 votes.
Shop local at the Crescent City Farmers Market in the French Market District every Wednesday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with live music and an assortment of local, fresh produce, seafood, and products.
All right, here we go.
FrenchMarket.org.
Dunc and Holder now. Josh Innes next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
One more segment here on Dunc and Holder. If you missed any of it, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube accounts. You can catch all of the action. Jeff dancing, Jeff on his political platform, Jeff drinking coffee.
The pothole platform is gaining steam locally. I think I've tapped into something.
Why haven't other politicians just solely run on that?
I don't know. They're just not as wise as I am.
Do you realize if you do run for political office, you have to step away from your columnist position, and you'd have to step away from Dunc and Holder?
That's true.
You cannot do both.
I really believe that I would win in a landslide on the pothole ticket. It would relieve a lot of anxiety and frustration around the city, which therefore would reduce crime. I think it's a gateway solution to all of our problems. Just fix the streets. It's not that hard.
It is that hard.
And fix them better than the ridiculous fashion that we fixed them for the last 20, 30 decades.
All you got to do is dump a bunch of kitty litter in them and just move on.
That's been the solution. I drive down certain streets in Uptown, and it looks like a asphalt pizza party on the street. They've used different consistencies of filler over the years. You can tell different administrations have gone to different solutions, and it's ridiculous. All these different holes that have been filled with different consistencies of asphalt. Shells, one year they must have gone to the shell theory to fill it. One year they go to this solution that you're talking about. It looks like kitty litter. The pothole machine. None of it works. All it does is make this mismatch of potholes. I mean, fix them. It's not that hard. Fix the streets.
We're going to be viral YouTube here in a minute because you're going to become that radio show host in New York who went bonkers about the Giants O-line, and I'm sitting here just being Michael K, and I just stare ahead, and I let it go, and then I'll segue into the Pelicans. They open their season tomorrow night. You can catch it right here on our sister station, 99.5 WRNO. They take on the Memphis Grizzlies, 7 o'clock tip at Memphis. Their Friday night home opener will be against the Golden State Warriors. I will actually be there writing a column on the game.
That's exciting.
I know. Hey, look, see what happens. But look, you've had some polls up. Before we get to the polls, I've been teasing it, and I almost forgot to get the results of these odds and ends. But according to bookmaker.eu, of course, very Euro, they have their odds on which NBA coach will be the first to be fired, and it's not Alvin Gentry. Alvin Gentry. It's Fred Hoiberg from the Bulls.
Oh, yeah. He barely hung on to his job in the offseason.
Well, he's barely hanging on to the top spot because Alvin Gentry is number 2, and he's pretty close. But number 2 in that list.
You and I both know the Pelicans front office very well. Know management and ownership there, and they do not make midseason changes. I don't think they've ever have, as long as Mickey Loomis has been running things there.
They've never even made a midseason on their own accord. Even when Tom Benson was the owner, they didn't fire Jim Mora in the middle of the season. He just quit.
Right. Jim Haslett went to the end of the season. Monty Williams, end of the season. Every coach that I can think of in the Hornets Pelicans, even before this group took over.
No, they fired Byron Scott after about 7 or 8 games.
But that wasn't Mickey.
No, that was not Mickey.
Okay.
No. And that was not Tom Benson. That was George Shinn, and they fired Byron Scott, and then I forgot, Jeff Bauer became the head coach. That was a good idea.
Loomis,
2 minutes, guys.
Loomis and Benson really believe in supporting. Sometimes they're loyal to a fault, but they really believe in stability and supporting the people they put in those positions. And they're going to err on the side of being conservative and patient as opposed to knee-jerk reaction firing somebody, even though I know that's not the case in this instance.
All right, Jeff, poll dancer.
Oh, yes, really quick.
Let's get to your polls.
All right, the second poll in the second hour, we asked which team is the New Orleans Pelicans' main rival. Who's their Atlanta Falcons? You know what? The overwhelming answer is they don't have one. 67% of our 228 votes said they do not have a main rival. Houston Rockets led the other 3 teams, the Thunder and Grizzlies. And I agree with that.
That's proximity and players now that you have Chris Paul, Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson, all of those. So proximity helps that vote.
Yeah, no doubt. Some people on Twitter said maybe the Spurs. I don't see that. I don't hear people talking about a Spurs-Pelicans rivalry. And then the first question we asked, what should realistic expectations be for the Pelicans? 54% say a 5 to 8 seed in the West. 43% believe just a winning record, maybe not make the playoffs. Only 3% believe top 4 seed in the Western Conference.
I think we've got 2 reasonable poll results. I wouldn't see it going any other way, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with both those results, and I think our followers and listeners are very astute, as always.
Absolutely. I want to thank Sean Pazan, Fox 8 WVUE TV. I want to thank Andrew Lopez of NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. I want to thank Dave for propping Jeff's political career. It's one step at a time here on Dunc and Holder. So, Dave, we'll see what we can do again tomorrow. So, for Larry Holder, for Jeff Duncan, thanks for joining us. And we will be back here tomorrow.
10.
Talking Saints, of course, Packers, and all kinds of other goodies here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
In Africa, 5-year-old True.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. All right, see y'all tomorrow.
All right, buddy.
Start getting that platform ready there,
That's
Jeff.
right.
Make NOLA great again.
By providing
Make NOLA streets great again.
There you go.
Hours walking.
You'd win in any other city except New
Girls can
Orleans
be in
on
a
that
classroom,
absolute.
and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Hello, it's me, the designer jeans in the back of your closet. What happened to us? I used to summer in the Hamptons, and now I'm stuck behind a pair of sweats. Okay, maybe I never really fit you right, but I got a lot more Sunday fun days left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to Goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
WODT, WNOE, FM, HD2 New Orleans.
Exactly.
Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280.
That's all we need to see.
Exactly.
All right, I got to turn the YouTube off.
Yes, before y'all start cursing.